Stephan Bonnar. So I'm pretty sure that most of the MMA world already heard the news from a couple of days ago. Well, I believe he passed away a couple of days ago. The news just got released recently that he passed away. And to no surprise, Twitter, Instagram. Well, I mean, I don't have Instagram. Art of Fight Trolling is literally just on Twitter. But on the Twitter feed, there's a bunch of people coming out of the woodworks with pictures of themselves with Stephan Bonnar and the typical bullshit that comes with the passing away of somebody. Now, granted, there shouldn't be any arguing over who knew who and how much you valued someone once someone dies. That's stupidity right there, and that's immaturity. I kind of just want to make this video in remembrance what I remember about Stephan Bonnar growing up, because I did get into MMA around 2002, and the Ultimate Fighter 1 came out shortly after that, and Stephan Bonnar and Forrest Griffin were pretty big at that time, very well known. As a matter of fact, I was able to get a couple of my acquaintances to get into MMA with the viewing of season 1, and it never failed. The Stephan Bonnar or Chris Levin or even Diego Sanchez were the people we would talk about when we would meet up at school. Like, hey, did you see this episode with this guy and whatnot? So again, this is more kind of like a remembrance of how I remember Stephan Bonnar. No sugarcoating, no kissing ass, no holding back. Initially, Stephan Bonnar was always personally one of my favorite guys from season 1. Probably is my favorite guy from season 1. Just for the fact of how he carried himself. He always seemed to be like this very reserved, intelligent person compared to everybody else. Everybody had their own personality, I get it. But Stephan Bonnar always seemed kind of like the father of that season. Granted, he had a funny interaction with Diego Sanchez about the asparagus, but that was a funny moment. However, shortly after he got into the UFC, I kind of forgot about him, to be honest. And it's not until, I think, what was it, pay-per-view UFC 62, when he had his rematch with Forrest Griffin, that I kind of picked up on him again and would follow him closely. At this point, my brother and I we were following every event closely. We were going to Best Buy almost every other month and buying the UFC DVDs as they came out. And I remember just Stephan Bonnar becoming a little relevant because he started kind of going on a winning spree. I remember when he fought John Jones live, pay-per-view. Well, not at the event, but bought the pay-per-view and watched it live. In my personal opinion, his best fights came between him and Krzysztof Szynski, which Krzysztof also came out of Ultimate Fighter season. Was one of my personal favorites at that time, just because they kind of had similar styles, very gritty, not too athletic, not too explosive, but they were very gritty, kind of walk you forward, little tanks, just kind of pepper you away until they overwhelmed you. And his second fight with Krzysztof was the fight that I remember the most, just for the fact of the preview coming into the fight. It was a rematch from a fight that was pretty entertaining. I believe it was stopped because of a ref stoppage, a cut, I believe, and they wanted to run it back immediately because it was fun. And in the fight, in the Art of Fight Trolling, you'll see me here and there whenever there's a discussion of what fight are we looking forward to. I tend to use the saying, this fight, because it's gonna be a slam bam, don't give a damn type of fight. That quote is straight from Stephan Bonnar. He said that as he was going into the Krzysztof Szynski fight, where he's like, man, I'm just excited about this because it's gonna be another slam bam, don't give a damn kind of fight. And I thought it was perfect, because that was his fighting style. And he ends up winning by TKO and kind of goes on, retires, comes back for the Anderson fight, which again, another pay-per-view that we ordered. And shortly after that, he kind of disappears, right? Comes back into another MMA promotion of Bellator. Kind of silly. I mean, a little bit of silly promotion with him and Tito and the whole scandal there. And again, once again, disappears from the MMA world. It just seems like he never recovered from then. And I was following him and Phil Baroni at that time. I still follow Phil Baroni and Stephan Bonnar, but I was kind of interested in their life because they both kind of clicked up. For those that don't know, Phil Baroni is like a fellow 170, 185 pounder, also guy that fought a gentleman that fought in the UFC as well. Pretty exciting, but never really got anywhere in his career. And I remember taking a bit of interest as to their personal lives because They were managing or operating a gentleman's club, going into Vegas from coming from like the LA city, going into Vegas. They had a little gentleman's club, and I think that's where I saw Stephan Bonnar spiral out of control. And I was actually kind of disgusted, to be honest, because their constant belligerent, drunken, zoned out videos were constant. They were publishing constant videos of them doing or saying just weird, stupid shit, to be honest. And it was worrying me. Even then I was worried. And this is one thing I do recall. I never recall anybody stepping up for Stephan Bonnar, or really putting pressure on him as to, hey man, you're starting to lead a destructive lifestyle. There's even a video where he kind of like, I believe they're in an airplane, and Stephan Bonnar seems to be drunk. He seems to be zoning in and out of consciousness from a substance. And he punches out the screen in front of him, which is the chair in front of him has a screen where they can watch television. Well, he punches it out or kicks it, and Phil Baroni thinks it's hilarious. I mean, they're literally acting like 13, 14-year-old little taggers that went and got some Mad Dog 2020s, got drunk, and they're kind of causing a little bit of ruckus around the city. And to me, that's alarming, because by then they were already 40. This was just like 5-6 years ago. You know, I think he passed away at 45, so he must have been in his late 30s, early 40s. And that's just no behavior for a 40-year-old. I get it. Substance abuse can come and attack at any given time. You know, after being living 50 years in this world, you try a Norco because you're in a car accident, boom, it's over for you, right? So I tried to be understanding in that department. However, again, I didn't see anybody really putting a stop to it or saying much of it. It's just he had been a character that had been forgotten. And then fast forward a few years later, the infamous hospital video where he's kind of like demanding that he get some Norco because of his vertebrae, and he went to an urgent care or a hospital, and that's when I knew there's no coming back for him at that age. Because I work in the pharmacy. I've been doing pharmacy work. I've been licensed for 15 years now, and I see this type of characters come in all day, every day. And one thing I can tell you is that is a desperate attempt for you to, the nerve, the desperation for you to go into a hospital that's not a primary care setting and try to demand some type of opioid and make a scene like that, and they're refusing me service and all kinds of stuff. Believe me when I tell you, we see this every day in the pharmacy. We hear every excuse, we hear everything. We've seen it and heard it all. And to me, I was like, wow, this guy is beyond addicted. It looks like he's having a come down, and those are gnarly. So I feel like he was desperate, just hoping that they would just give him a prescription for some sort of opioid for his fix. Unfortunately, he passed away, but I just wanted to share how I remember Stephan Bonnar. I'm never gonna forget his Ultimate Fighter season. I'm never gonna forget some of his greedier fights that he's not known for, because all people talk about is the Forrest Griffin fight. People should check out the Krzysztof Szynski fights back to back, man. Great fights. And a man who, even down the road in his life, addiction got the best out of. It took him down. That was his biggest rival. I mean, he fought the likes of Krzysztof, Forrest, Tito, Anderson Silva, and the one opponent to really take him out for good was opioid addiction. So learn from it, guys, and appreciate people while they're here on the earth, and for the good times and the things that you will remember of them, because every single person that passes away, there's something that we're gonna miss from them. Even though they've been long forgotten, if we hear that they're no longer here with us amongst the living, we're always gonna remember those things that only they could have put in our minds as a beautiful memory. Take care.